Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Peacock in Autumn, and I'm sipping on some black tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you'll find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along, you could certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, green oxide, fire red, burnt sienna, which I like to call rust, burnt umber, which I will probably call brown, Mars black, cobalt blue, and deep yellow. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a standard number 2 pencil that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 8 round synthetic brush and a number 3 round synthetic brush. And I may refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process, or I'll just call them out by name. And of course you can switch those up if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as some kind of towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You could also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my number 3 round to pre-mix a custom color that I'll be using for my base coat. So the colors that I'm going to use in this step are white, yellow, brown, and green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a light, pale, green color. I'm probably going to just refer to it as tan because it's a really kind of a tan color that leans a little bit towards green. So I have pre-mixed my color here on my palette, or you could refer to this maybe as like a really light, neutral, like sage green type of a color, but it's very minimal hint of green, but it still leans that way. So how I achieve this is a lot of white, a good amount of brown, but not as much brown as white, and then just a touch of green and a touch of yellow. And then I spin it together. So what I'm looking for, again, is a light neutral tone that's pretty tan, but it leans a little bit more towards the greenish side. So something like this will work for me. And then once I've got that color, I'm going to put my mixing tool away, take out my large bristle brush, and then just paint the entire canvas with this color. So you can see once it's right next to my white canvas how that color does lean a little towards the greenish side. I wouldn't, if I saw this color by itself, I wouldn't say, oh, that's green. But it definitely has that little bit of a hint of it in there. So it'll make it be a nice complementary color for the background that I'm going to be doing behind my peacock. I want my peacock's colors to really pop off the canvas. So using a nice neutral color behind the peacock is really going to allow its colors to be prominent, as well as the autumn tones that I'm going to be putting in the leaves and in the feathers of the bird. So when you're doing this kind of step, especially when you're using this type of color, which covers really well, your brush stroke direction doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of trying to get a nice full coverage on there. You're not going to have a ton of streaking with a color like this because the opacity is really high, which means it is difficult to see through, and it'll be difficult for you to see the canvas through this type of color. So the brush stroke direction won't be as evident on a color like this, so it doesn't matter as much what direction your brush is going in. So once I've got it fully covered like this, what I like to do to ensure that I have a nice even coat is I'll just take my brush and go back and forth, left to right, to level out any really thick spots and or to catch any spots that I may have missed. I don't need this to be 100% coverage on this particular base coat because my future steps are going to be going right over this anyways. So if I do have some unevenness in this paint layer, I'm okay with that. And then we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this brush. Oops, just threw my brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting some atmospheric dimension. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use in this step are white, yellow, my custom tannish green that we created, brown, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, and maybe a little bit of red. So what I'm referring to when I'm calling it atmospheric dimension is all of the air, if you will, that's going to be surrounding my peacock and any out of focus colors that I want to be represented in the distant atmosphere. So this will give the painting more dimension if I can put some complementary colors in the background that are going to be behind the things that are going to be in focus. So my peacock is going to be in focus, the branch is going to be in focus, and I'm going to have some leaves around here that'll be in focus close to the viewer. So if I can put some out of focus stuff behind it, it'll give it atmospheric dimension. So I'm also going to be making the center area a little bit lighter. So my peacock again will have lots of room to pop, and maybe it'll look like there's some kind of light in the atmosphere. So I'm going to be starting, oh, and I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step because it'll be easier. I'm going to start with white, my base custom tannish green, and a touch of yellow. So this is what my brush looks like. I have mostly white with a touch of this color and a touch of my yellow. I'm going to start in the center. I'm going to be using a circular type of brush stroke. So this is going to give me this soft kind of misty, if you will, or foggy or blurry type of appearance. So once I've got that center kind of started, as I work in my way out, I can mix up my color combination a little bit. Maybe one time I just pick up white. So I've got a couple of lighter areas. Maybe one time I pick up a little bit of white and yellow. So I've got a little bit more yellow in the equation. That might have been a little bit too yellow for me, so I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my background color plus white on there just to dull that down a little bit. And then as I'm going out towards the exteriors, I'm going to start to get it a little bit darker in a minute as well. But before I get there, I'm just going to kind of make sure I've got this center area the way that I want. I'm going to get it darker up in the top left and top right hand corners of the canvas. And then as I come down my canvas, I don't need this to go all the way down to the bottom because the whole bottom is going to be covered by the peacock's tail. So I'm only going to be bringing this down a little bit on this side and maybe just a little bit past my halfway point on this side. So right now I'm just going to kind of make sure that this light area kind of blends down just a little bit further, making sure that I have a second coat on this whole center section a little bit past my halfway mark. So that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to start moving outward. And when I move outward, I'm going to be picking up my base color, which is that light tannish green. And I can pick up a tiny bit of yellow and a tiny bit of brown. So again, my color combination is just a little, it's mostly my background color plus a tiny brown and a tiny yellow. And I can start making these darker areas out towards the outer edges of the canvas. And again, this is going to add to that illusion of there being some dimension in this painting. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to come down a little bit further with this, and in a minute I will start incorporating some of my burnt sienna and or red. I'm not quite sure which color combination I'm going to use, but I do want to get some autumny type of tones incorporated in here as well. So the reds and the oranges is what's going to scream autumn. I'm just picking up a little bit more brown, give myself a little bit darker down in through here. And again, you can, you know, make some areas more brown, some areas more yellow, whatever works for you. I just wanted to kind of make sure that it blends in well with that lighter area in the middle, just so it doesn't look like we're just too choppy and have sections of colors. I want them to really kind of work together. Maybe a little bit more brown down this left-hand side. And then once I've got this on, now I'm going to start incorporating. I'm going to start with burnt sienna, and if I feel that I want to go into some rust or red, I certainly will do that. But I'm thinking that I'm going to start with a tiny bit of burnt sienna. Just give a little bit of extra darkness or the autumny colors. I just picked up burnt sienna and brown on my brush just to kind of get those little deeper tones in through here. Same thing up in this top right hand corner. And if it's blending a lot on you and you're thinking, oh, that's just too much to blend, that it's okay. This is just background information behind what's going to be our leaves, so you don't need it to be unblended. It can be blended a lot, it can be blended a little bit. We're going to be disguising everything with leaves and stuff. This is just giving us that out of focus information behind it. I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I might go a little tiny bit darker up on this left hand side, maybe back in through here just with a little bit more brown. And then I think that this is all I need to do for this. What I'm going to be doing I'm just rinsing some of that brown off of my brush because I want to blend this one little section just a little bit more, pick up some of my background tannish green. There we go. So once I've got it in this stage, you can certainly keep tweaking it if you want to. Add more white, add more yellow, whatever works for you. You could even do another layer on it. And then we're going to be using our drawing utensil for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out something to draw with, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our peacock and the branch of which it's sitting on. I'm going to be using my pencil. You can certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I'm going to guide you through a series of markers. We're going to be connecting those markers and we're going to be drawing some basic shapes. By the time we're done, we're going to have a simple outline that we'll be able to utilize during the painting and process. So I'm not going for any fine-tuned detail here, just something that's really nice and basic that can help us along with placing our objects and making sure that we've got the bird in pretty good proportion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself the center of my canvas, top to bottom, left to right. So for me, I've already marked mine. The center of my canvas lies right about in through here. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the left of that about 3 inches. So if I go halfway between here and the edge of my canvas, that kind of puts me right about here. I'm going to come in about an inch or so, half of an inch to an inch, somewhere in through here, make my first real marker. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from here about 3 inches, somewhere in this vicinity, and then I'm going to go about halfway between that and the edge of my canvas. So somewhere around here is going to give me my next marker. I'm going to connect here to here, making a really long, like teardrop / oval type of a shape. So I'm going to take from here, And I'm going to go up a little bit and then curve it here and then just drop it right back down into this point in through here. This doesn't have to be a perfect line. You can see I'm just kind of sketching it. And then I'm going to do the same thing from here. But when I come down here, it's going to come right below my halfway point. So somewhere in through here. So I can take this and make sure you can see my pencil in through here and bring it here and then right into this point. So what we just did was just made the main body portion of the bird. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a small circle for the head. So I'm going to make sure that I kind of stay in the center of my canvas. I'm going to come up, up, up until I would say I'm about maybe 2.5 inches from the top of my canvas, and then come over maybe about 1.5 inches or so, somewhere in through here. This is the top of the circle. My circle is only going to be about 1.25 inches tall by 1.25 inches wide. So you can just come down from that about 1.25 inches, and then you can even mark yourself a couple of side markers to give you that, and then just connect your markers in order to give you a circular type shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. This just gives us a place to go from. This is the head. You probably figured that part out. No, I'm going to put a little beak on this left-hand side. If you want to shape the head a little bit as opposed to just being a circle, you can just kind of pull a little forehead out and then just give it a little beak that just kind of drops down like that. On the bottom side, I can just take this a little bit past this curve here and then just bring this down into that little point in through there. I'm going to take it from here, which is just to the right of the bottom of the center, and I'm going to connect here to here. So this is a little bit, well, it's almost dead center at the bottom of that circle. I'm going to connect this with an arcing line. So something like this. I don't know how well you can see this on camera, so I'm going to pull out my white chalk just so you can, I'm going to put a white line right next to it so you can see the white. I don't know if the camera can see the pencil or the white, so we'll just put them right next to each other so you can see both. And then I'll do another line over here. I think I'll do chalk over here so you guys can see it better. So I'm going to take from the top of the head or just a little bit back from the head, something like this. And this is going to get connected way down into right about in through here. So I'm going to give a big curve like this past outside this circle here. So something like this, and that'll give me the outside portion of the peacock. I'm going to outline this with my white too, just in case you guys can't see it. So you're going to have all kinds of outlines for you to follow. So that gives me my main shape for the peacock. Now I want to kind of flail out the tail. So I'm going to take from here and I'm going to connect it. I would say somewhere, if this is halfway up or down my canvas, I'm going to be about at the quarter way mark, somewhere in through here. I'm going to use my chalk too because I think this will work out better for you guys to see. And I'm just going to give myself a real fun, loose kind of line. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. And then I'm going to take from this meeting point right in through here, and I'm going to give myself just a curvy line in through here. This one's going to be a little bit lower than this one, I feel, something like this. And I don't know if you noticed, but I tried to stay within my out of focus area just to make sure that there wasn't any unpainted area between, say, this color and this color. So I knew that I only brought this stuff down a certain distance, so that's where I'm bringing the tail down. So now I just need to make a, I guess I'm totally switching to my chalk so you guys can see it, because I'm going to make a branch that my bird is sitting on. This is going to be all fluffy feathers in through here, but I still need something for my bird to be sitting on. So I'm going to be taking it right from this little point of this shape and just kind of bringing it to the left with a pretty organic kind of line, and then just drop down maybe about an inch, inch and a half, another little organic kind of line. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the right side, but I'm going to have it split, and I'm also going to bring it up into the body a little bit. This will help us to give reason why we are not painting feet or anything. So I can take it from, say, somewhere in this vicinity and just give myself kind of like a little curve, kind of coming like that. And then I'm just going to kind of shoot this up, and then I'll do, and then you could, in essence, kind of erase that little line if you if you wanted to, so that tucks the bird behind this little nub of the branch. And then the bottom portion of the branch, I wanted to make sure it looks like it kind of connects to this. So just go directly over from there, and that'll give you a nice place to have this one kind of coming out. And then I'm just going to go up like this and back down. And then I'm going to give myself a little split. So I'll take this and maybe come to here and then here like that. And that's all I'm going to be doing for my outline. I'm going to be using both my large bristle brush and my number 3 round for the next step, so you can make any little fiddling adjustments you feel are necessary. Get both of those brushes out and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our branch and our bird. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush and my number 3 round. The colors I'm going to use are blue, brown, yellow, and burnt sienna. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing a blue base for the whole top and neck of the bird. I'll be doing a brown base for what will be, I guess, the shoulder wing area. And then we'll be using yellow, burnt sienna, and brown for the long feathers, and we'll use brown for our branch. So I'm going to start with my branch. I'm going to start with just brown paint. I'm using my large brush. You could, if you felt that you needed to use the smaller one to get this coat on here, you certainly could, but I want mine to look kind of streaky, so it takes on maybe a little bit of wood tone, so that's why I'm opting to use this brush for this particular step. Gonna just kind of get this right up to the body in through here, and then just pull it to the side. And of course, you don't have to follow your outline exactly. This is a organic tree branch, so anything goes when it comes to painting these kind of natural elements, because you can really bend them, twist them, and shape them whatever way looks pleasing to your painterly eye. So that looks pretty good. I'm also going to use this brown on a section of where that wing is going to go, or the shoulder part. So I'm going to take my brush, and from right about in through here, I'm going to make myself kind of a little squiggly line in through here, like this. This will be all feathers coming down here. And then I'm just painting this section in with my brown paint. I'm going to leave a little evidential kind of mark in through here just to make sure that I know where that wing kind of meets the branch, like that. Looks pretty good. And then up, or I'm going to hit the tail next. My tail, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my dirty brush with brown and burnt sienna on it. So I'm not washing my brush. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna. When I do this tail, I really just want it to be flowing, almost like hair. So I'm going to be using long brush strokes. I will be bringing some of these pieces out a little bit. I'll do that more in future steps as well, but right now I'm just considering this to be my base coat. So I'm going to start up in through here. Again, I have brown and my burnt sienna on my brush. I'm going to just put this right up in through here, and I'm immediately going to start picking up a little bit of yellow. So a little bit of the burnt sienna there. Now I'm picking up a little bit of yellow. What I'm doing is I'm just giving myself some various tones throughout this this tail. So of course I still have the black or the brown on my brush, so that's also going to be coming off while I'm doing this as well. Picking up a little bit more yellow because I want this kind of top side center to have a little more yellow in it, as opposed to the other tones that are going to be going into it. So that's why I'm just kind of working my yellow right now. My paint is transparent, so you're going to see this little pencil line in through here right now. Totally okay with that right now. We're going to get that to disguise itself later on down the road, but right now we're okay with it. Now I'm going to start picking up my burnt sienna, and I'm just going to allow for these really long flowing type of brush strokes. So I'm letting it go in the direction that I feel the feathers are going to be falling. So I feel like they're going to just be draping over and coming down in through here, and then maybe kind of kicking out this way And again, the streakiness is great. This is going to, this will help us build our feathers. So you can go left and right, but down this center, you're gonna wanna just make sure that they gradually kind of go from one to the other. So you don't want it to split super evenly down the middle, because that'll make it look like it's a little funky. So just kind of go gradually from one side to the other. Again, just picking up some burnt sienna right now. I kind of want this to be a little more wavy in through here, so I'm gonna add some little waves coming about in through here. And of course, you can have yours as full as you want. Maybe you want yours to come up more on either side. Like I feel like I want this to kind of drape over a little bit higher on this side. And you can have peekaboo spots of that background showing through. It's totally up to you. I am in a second gonna start picking up a little bit more brown as I come down towards this, towards the tail of the tail. A little bit more brown on my brush right now. Just gonna put some darker notes in through these real bottom areas, just again for that dimensional element, similar to how we did the sky with those darker notes around those corners. Something like this on the tail can certainly help to add those depths and little shadowy spots in between those feathers as well. I think I want a little bit more brown in through here as well. And then I'm going to switch brushes to my small brush so I can get that top of the bird. So this is going to be my number 3 round, and I'm just going to be using my blue paint to do this. So it's going to look really bright right now, which is okay in my book. But when we start to add those additional colors on top of it, that's what's going to make it have more of a realistic feel to it. Plus, I am just, you know, making this into a real fun painterly kind of image. But so if you like this really bright blue, as we go through the process, if you want to keep yours this bright, you can certainly do that. That's going to be one of those decisions that you make all on your own. But I'm going to start with this color, and then we'll morph it into a more believable color as we go through the process. The face will eventually have other details on it, but right now I'm just going to paint the whole thing with my blue color, and that'll help for me. I know that the colors I'm going to be using, my black and my white, and we'll make a gray, those will cover this really easily. So I'd rather just kind of get it all painted in this nice solid color right now, and then add the smaller elements on top of it. It'll just make my painting process a little bit more simple. So instead of, you know, sectioning out the eye and the beak right now, I'm just opting for this painting method. And I'm just going right up to the edges. I'm not even concerned at this point if my edges are perfect or not, because again, I know I've got plenty of steps to go. And then I'm just gonna kind of bring this out like this. And I'm gonna wait to do the little topper, because I feel, I'm not sure if what I'm gonna do with the leaves and stuff. So I just wanna make sure that I have all this background information before I decide what I'm going to do with that little topper in case it overlaps something. So that looks pretty good, and I think that's all I'm going to be doing for this step. So we are going to be using our, I think I'm going to use my medium brush, my number 8 round brush for the next step. So you can just get ready. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna be painting the base coat for the leaves. So I'm gonna have some autumn leaves up in the top left and right. And I'm also on this step gonna finish this branch. I'm gonna be using my number 8 round brush. The colors I'm gonna use are black, brown, burnt sienna, red, yellow, and white. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So first I'm just gonna put my oh, actually, let me do my branch first, because I might have a leaf or two hanging over it. So on my branch, I'm going to put a shadow at the bottom of the branch as well as underneath my bird. And then I'm just going to add some little tonal highlights to the rest of it. So I'm going to start with a bit of black on my brush, and I'm definitely going to put a little bit of black down at the bottom. I'm putting a touch of water on my brush too so I can spread it a little bit better. So a little bit of black on my brush. And this is where if I still had some of my chalk mark, I could get rid of that. I'm just kind of loosely dragging it left to right to up the branch so it'll give it a little bit more of a wood grain type of a look. I'm going to do the same thing over here. This is going to be really dark right underneath my bird. So really nice and dark underneath here, as if my bird is casting a shadow onto that branch, and then just kind of allowing for that shadow to work its way into the branch, picking up more black with a touch of water on my brush, itchy face, to get a dark shadow at the bottom of this stick. And again, it doesn't have to be a straight line going across. This I'm allowing for some little lighter spots to be included in order to give it a little bit more of a wood grain type of a look. I'm going to put a little bit of darkness at the bottom side of this one as well. Something like that will work out. And now I can just add some little highlights. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush so I don't have too much black, because if I go black and white, I'm going to end up with a gray branch, which isn't a bad thing, but I'm going to opt for more brown with a touch of white on my brush in order to give me my second coat at the top of this branch. A little bit more brown to just make sure it doesn't look too white, and that'll work out for me in through here. And again, you could have it different tones if you wanted to. If you wanted yours to be more of a rusty looking brown, you could use some of that burnt sienna. If you wanted it to be more grayish, you could use more black and white. That's going to be up to you, but I'm just sticking with my brown and white right now, just giving myself some little pockets of brighter parts for the wood grain texture to appear. Wiping my brush off, picking up a little bit more brown just to get that to blend in a little bit. And then once I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and work on my base coat for the leaves. So on my leaves, I think this is looking pretty good. On my leaves, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a variety of my autumn tones. So that's going to be my red, my burnt sienna, my yellow, right, like my branch, and in order to give myself the base coat of them. We'll come back later with some additional highlights and little twigs in between them and stuff, but this really is just going to get the base coat for them on. So I'm going to be using my brown, burnt sienna, red, and yellow to do this, and I'm just going to alternate those colors. So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown, and maybe up in through here I've got some little pointy little edges to the branches. I can, wherever I want there to be a darker one, I can kind of say, oh, maybe I want a little bit of a darker one over in through here. So I'm just going to kind of pull out the dark tones of the tip of a leaf. I can pick up some burnt sienna if I want to add some burnt sienna in through here. I'm not looking for incredible detail right now. I'm really just looking to give myself the start of where I want these leaves to go. So if I want some leaves to kind of come out in through here, maybe I pick up more red on my brush. I just picked up a little bit more red. I can have maybe a pointier one kind of coming out in through here. You can, they overlap each other, so don't feel like you have to make them all of the same independently, like having their own space. They can overlap each other. I'm picking up some yellow now. Maybe I just kind of put a little yellow hue in this one as it's popping out. Maybe I want a big one kind of coming out over in through here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my burnt sienna on this one to give it a little bit different tone. And for me, when I'm thinking autumn leaves, I often just think, okay, well, they've got the base to them, and then they have these almost like little pointy spikes to them. You might find that in your head you see them a little bit differently than I do. You can certainly use photo references to kind of get certain types of leaves that can, be either, reminiscent of what you are familiar with that are indigenous to your area. There's just a million different kinds of, not a million, but a lot of different kinds of autumn leaves that can really inspire these fabulous autumn paintings. I feel like I want to have just kind of a mishmash in through here of colors, and keeping those kind of my focal leaves. So I'm just going to kind of wiggle in some colors in through here that we will enhance later with little pops of highlights and sticks and stuff like that. But right now just kind of want to pop these little impressionistic kind of marks in through here, and I don't want to get too carried away with the detail. So again, I'm flipping back and forth between brown, burnt sienna, red, and yellow to accomplish these. So I want to have one right up in through here. So, little pointy edges that are going to create the illusion of a autumn leaf. And I haven't washed my brush, so whatever is on my brush right now is allowing for me to kind of intermingle these colors with one another. So I definitely want to have maybe one popping down in through here. And if you do a color and you're like, oh, don't really want yellow there, just pop a little red on it, and now you've got yourself a great orange leaf. So you can certainly have fun with, with those different values, with the different tones for these leaves. They can really just take on different colors. If you wanted to use your green, you could certainly use a little bit of your green. That's going to help you. That could certainly turn it into, you could turn this into a summer painting if you wanted to. You could have all kinds of fun with, spring flowers. You could, make it into a spring peacock or a fall peacock, whatever you want. It's totally up to you. Today I'm doing fall, but you could certainly easily change the season, because I am putting lots of leaves. You could just turn the color of them into green, take out the burnt sienna in the tail, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a beautiful summer peacock. So this painting definitely leaves room for lots of variations. I'm picking up some brown, and again, just kind of, now I'm going to just put a couple little impressionistic marks now that I've got all of my leaves kind of placed where I want. And if you want a couple that just hang over or are floating by your or behind your branch, you can certainly just tap your brush into these little areas, and that's going to maybe imply that the feathers might be connecting to that beautiful display. Perhaps they're all one, use your imagination, I guess, is the moral to my story. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this medium 8 away, take out small round, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our leaves. So this will include the branches that go to them and the little details with the highlights and all that good stuff, making them look a little bit more realistic, but not photorealistic, just something fun and enjoyable that's going to match our peacock. I'm going to use my small round. The colors I'm going to use are white, yellow, red, burnt sienna, brown, and black, because I need to definitely do some branches too, or the little sticks and stuff. So I'm going to add some highlights to make some of these leaves pop out a little bit. Maybe if I feel that I want to add some little veins in any of them, I can certainly do that, but I'm just really looking to kind of finesse a couple of them so they look like they're in focus a little bit, and then just add some minimal detail to the rest. So I'm actually going to start with a little bit of yellow and white on my brush, so almost like just a light yellow color, because I know there's a couple over here and maybe a couple of little out of focus dots that I want to be nice and bright, like there's some sunshine. So I'm going to take and put a little bit of this light color on some of these leaves in order to make them pop out just a little bit more, and give myself that ability to say, okay, maybe there's some sunshine on some of these. Maybe up in through here, I can just kind of take and put a little bit of this in through here. You can also, as you're doing this, if you feel that you want to put any like little sparkly stuff in the background, give it a little bit more information, or if you felt like you wanted to need some little space fillers, you can certainly use this step to do those kind of little tasks if you wanted to. I'm thinking that that's all I really want for the lighter ones over and through here. You can also pick up, while you're with that light color, you can pick up a little bit of red. So yellow, white, and red is going to give me kind of like either a light peachy tone or a light orangey type of a tone. That'll be up to you, again, if you want to add those kind of details. So I'm really just going through the leaves and saying, okay, are they fully rendered? Do I want a little pop of a brighter highlight on them? And then what I'll do is, once I've got all these little brighter highlights, I'll go through and add my sticks and stuff into it. So like over here, if you wanted to have the little vibrant edges to a leaf, you can just take that lighter tone, and you can even just kind of bring it on one side of a leaf. You can even say, okay, well, maybe up and through here, I want the viewer to see the whole leaf. So you could just make the edge of one happen on top of the other ones, or in the middle of one. So I could say right here, okay, well, here's the edge to this leaf, and I just made that one pop out in front of the other ones. So you can really have fun with that kind of stuff. I just picked up a little bit more red, giving myself just, maybe another layer to some of these. Maybe this one has a little bit more information, something like that. And again, this is going to be how far do you want to pull this? I just picked up some red and some brown just to get the edge of this one a little bit more kind of realized, a little bit more red and yellow. So once I did those little highlights to wherever I wanted it to pop out the most, now I'm just traveling around making sure that it all looks done. Like this one up here definitely looks like it needs another layer. So I picked up some red and brown, and I'm saying, oh, okay, well, maybe I've got, one leaf in through here. Maybe the other leaf gets some burnt sienna on it, and I can just really go through and just give each leaf its own identity if I wanted to. Maybe now I pick up a little bit of red as I go up into this section, up in through here. So you can really just have fun with those values. If like I have a dark one back here, so maybe I just pick up a little bit more brown and make sure that that's as dark as I want it to be. I can pick up burnt sienna, get this one. So I'm doing another layer on each of them. I just picked up a light, whatever that light color was on my palette, just to kind of give another lighter tone up and through here. I'm finessing my little edges. Maybe this guy here gets a little more darkness to it to give it maybe some veins if you want, or to crisp up those little edges to it. So again, having fun with this step, not feeling the pressure to make it look like a photograph. You can use any of these colors to kind of just morph the leaf into a lighter version, a darker version, or just a finished version. So that looks pretty good over there. Over in through here, I feel like maybe I should just kind of allow for a little bit more detail on these guys, maybe a little bit more brown. And if you're having difficulty seeing it on top of the background, that means it either needs to be darker or lighter. So whatever you want to do to add contrast to it, I could even pick up some, I didn't say I was going to use this, you could pick up some of your background color, and you could even lighten up around that leaf. So if that poses a challenge for you where you're not able to see your leaves because they seem to be the same color as the background, you can just pick up some of that background color, or they're the same tonal value as what's behind them. You can just pick up some of that background color and lighten up around the edges, or conversely, you can darken up around those edges in order to get them to be more visible to the viewer. So once I've got them the way that I want to finish this one though first. This one doesn't look done to me. Once I've got them the way that I want them, I'm going to add some little sticks and you know, branches that are going to connect these leaves to the to wherever they're connected to. Again, yellow, red, brown, orange. That made that one. There is no orange. Yellow and red makes orange. The burnt sienna. Whatever colors you're feeling, just go for it. These are just intended to be really fun and beautiful and taking on just an autumn feel, so you can certainly make yours into whatever you want. So once I've got that, I am going to wash my brush, and I'm going to knock out the sticks and stuff. I think that looks pretty. That might be too light, but I'll come back to that. Oh, maybe add a little bit more burnt sienna on it. There we go. Sometimes you want something and it was like, oh, that was just too much. You can have fun with that. I'm having a hard time stopping because I'm enjoying the process too much. So, all right, on to branches and sticks. Washing, dry, and brush. This is just going to be a combination, I think, primarily of black and brown. But if I feel I need to go into any other colors once I start this process, I certainly will. So I'm really just looking to kind of connect these leaves to something behind them, so you can certainly just take and connect it behind the leaves, in front of the leaves, add more little I just picked up a little bit of burnt sienna for some reason. I didn't mean to do that. You can make them thicker, you can make them thinner, you can put little branches without leaves on them, because in the fall the leaves will fall on the ground. So as you're going through this process, again, think of these as kind of like space fillers. If you feel that some area looks like it needs more information, just stick a couple of branches in through there, and that's going to help to sell the story of this being completed. You can put a branch in front of a leaf, so if you feel that is going to help your story out any, feel free to do it. Again, black and brown is primarily where I'm headed with this, and again, in through here you can put them in between, you can put them coming out on their own. Whatever works for you is the place where you can and should take this. And then once you've got this done, we are going to be using, and of course you could put, you know, additional ones or pop on these little ones that you have down here. You could do another layer on those as well. Let's see, I was talking about what we're going to be doing next. So we're going to use this small brush for the next step. So if you can ever stop doing your leaves, you can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the head. I'm going to be using my small number 3 round brush. The colors I'm using are black, white, and blue. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So I just need to separate out the eye and the beak, and we're going to do the little, I think it's called a crown. I could be wrong, but the little crown on the top of the head. So I'm going to start with a little bit of black paint on my brush with a little bit of water. So this way it's nice and fluid and I can really get it to go where I want it to go. So I'm going to go almost right in the center of my head. If I find the center of my head, I can give myself just a little dot, and then I'm going to give myself a small circle, just to give myself the start of the eye. You can make this eye as big or as small as you want. Again, mine is not full photorealistic here, so if you wanted it to look younger or, you know, on the cuter kind of illustrated side, you can make a really big eye if you wanted to. Mine's probably a little bit bigger than it is in real life, but I wanted it to be super cute. So I've taken that, and now what I'm going to do is there's a black area that surrounds the eye. So I'm going to just give myself kind of this marking in through here, and then just bring this down a little bit like this, and kind of right into where this beak part is. So somewhere right in down and through here. I left myself a tiny little bit around that circle I initially made, just so I know where that is. And then I want to separate out the beak from the head part. So I'm going to go a little bit higher than where that circle kind of met the beak in through here. And I'm just going to give myself kind of this little squiggly line, if you will, down towards almost this little black marker in through here. This is going to end up being, I'm taking this black right here and blending it up into that blue. So I keep wiping my brush off on my paper towel, and I'm just going to get this to kind of blend up and disappear in this blue right in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit more black. I'm going to give myself a nostril somewhere in through here. So just a little bit of black is going to give me my nostril there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up black and white. So I have black and white on my brush right now, and I'm going to give myself a couple of little streaks on this beak. So this is black and white, which is in essence is going to make it gray around this nostril in through here. So just kind of graying this up. I'm going to put white in a little bit, but I mean, if you still see some blue in there, that's fine. This is just going to, the gray is going to help to cut through it, and it's also going to give us a place to build our little white areas off of. So that looks pretty good. I need to actually put a little bit more on the top side just because I feel as if it needs to be a little bit more. There we go. So while that's drying, I'm going to use that black and white that's on my brush, give myself a little pupil. So somewhere in through here is going to give myself a little pupil. And I'm going to give myself a little kind of lighter area on the sides of that eye, something like this. So in essence, I'm using gray right now. Just give myself a little bit of information around those eyes. You could put, if you wanted to put another color in the eye, you could pick up, let's say, brown and or blue and just give yourself a little color in that eye, but that's not necessary. I'm wiping my brush off, picking up a tiny bit of white, give myself just a little kind of extra sparkle in those parts. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more white to give myself these colored sections around the eyes. So I got white on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of go down this back side. It doesn't have to be a perfect shape. I was finding when I was looking at different peacocks that these markings on the face are different from one to another. It's like they all have their own individual kind of look to them. So you can take yours and make it as special to you as you want. I'm going to bring this down right down to the beak in through here, even go right into the beak a little bit, giving myself kind of like these little streaks of light color. That works good. I'm going to put a little bit more, I'm going to put a little white marking kind of up in through here to add to that story. And then I'm going to put this front section is going to go white like that. And then I'm going to put, I have too much paint on my brush, wiping that off. I'm going to put some, a little white kind of mark inside that nostril, and then just give myself some little white areas around the beak. Again, I'm leaving some of that gray that I created initially, which is going to, it's going to make it look like it's got texture on this beak, and then just maybe a little bit of extra in through there. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to move up to the crown part. I'm going to actually start with my black and white on my brush. So this is going to be gray, black and white on my brush at the same time to give myself we're going to call them feather stems. I don't know if these are they're called feathers on the top of the head, but I'm using black and white at the same time, which is creating these gray tones. But I will also in a minute put a little bit of white too to highlight some of these, but I want the gray in there to give me a textural type of element, and I'm kind of displaying the top as if it's in a curved manner as opposed to just straight across. This is gonna give them give it a good display. I'm gonna now wash my brush, and I'm gonna pick up blue. So I'm gonna pick up blue and do a whole bunch of dots up at the top. And while this is drying, I'm going to go down and finish the face or the head, and then we'll come back up and finish these guys. So just a whole bunch of dots up at the top here. You can make it very energetic, you can make it very non-energetic, whatever you want, but just lots. I'm putting lots, so it's got a lot of texture to it. And again, I'm going to come back in a minute and make it a little bit more dimensional, but right now what I'm going to do, I have blue on my brush. I'm wiping my brush off a little bit. I'm going to pick up white. So I have blue and white on my brush at the same time. I want there to be some little highlights on the top of this head. So I'm just tapping in these little light marks. So this is, so it in essence is kind of light blue. And I'm in a second gonna, I don't know if I said I was using yellow. I'm going to use yellow too, because I feel I want this to have a little bit of a more of a teal type of a look to it as well. So you can take, I have blue and white on my brush. If you take a little bit of yellow and mix it in with that, mix it with the blue and the white, which I'm doing on my palette right now, you can create this beautiful teal type of a color, which will make your blue almost look iridescent. So this is just a little bit of a teal tone on top of it, and just little polka dots. I don't need to do much, just adding those little polka dots to give that nice textural element to it. There we go. We got it now. And of course you could make yours as light or as dark as you want. If you want it even more vibrant, feel free to put that as light as you want. You could even almost go as close to white up at the top just to provide that textural element into it. And now I'm going to go up and I'm washing my brush, and I'm going to put some white on my brush to create just a couple little white streaks in this guy right in through here. So just a couple little white streaks, and then I'll use white and maybe white in my teal color as a little highlight for these guys up in through here. So just adding, again, just that textural element with a contrasting color. And then you can fiddle with it as much as you want. If you feel that you want more white, you can add more white. Oh, I do want to put a little shadow. Nah, I'll do that with my other brush. The bottom of the neck area, I feel, needs to be a little shadowed, but I'll do that when I go to do that neck. And then we're going to be using our medium brush for the next step, so the number 8 round. So when you get this done, you can put this small brush away, take out the medium round, and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the neck and this shoulder area. Sorry, I don't know the right terminology for that. The shoulder, wing, tip, or elbow, shoulder area. I'm going to use my number 8 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are blue, black, that custom little teal color that we just made, because I think that's going to look awesome on the neck, brown, I think I said white, yellow, and green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting shadows on this neck area. I'm going to put a shadow underneath here. I'll put a little shadow in through here, a big shadow down here, and then we'll add just some nice contrasting highlight in through here to give the neck some form. And in this area in through here, the peacocks, and they can come in many different color varieties. They have like these shorter feathers that just layer upon each other. So I'm going to create just a quick impressionistic display of them using kind of a curved brush stroke. There'll be like a light brown down in through here, and then we're gonna fade them up into like a yellow and then a greenish color up at the top. So I'm going to tackle the neck first. I'm going to be using just a tiny bit of black paint on my brush, on the tip of my brush. I'm going to start down in through here and give myself a nice shadowy area. So as you're doing this, if you're finding that you want to make sure the viewer can understand the difference between the branch and the belly of the bird, just leave the hint of blue down where they meet, or you could even put a little tiny, I'm picking up a little bit of brown and white just to show you how you can do this. You can just pull the top of that branch in with a little bit lighter color so you can see the difference in through there. So washing my brush now, it's big enough, going back into my black. So I put a little shadow down in through there. I think I want it to come up just a little bit further into this, up the edge of this wing in through here, but leaving some lightness there. I'm going to do the same on the underside of the neck. So just a little bit of black on my brush, and I'm going to go right under. I need a little bit of water on my brush too, because you need to control it in this little area. So just a little bit of black on my brush. Gonna put it, and you could of course use your smaller brush too. If this brush ends up being too large for you to handle in this small area, you could certainly switch brushes. And then I put the black on, and then I'm gonna rub it out until it fades into that blue. So if you have a ton of paint on your brush, this might not be the step, this might not work for you. So just keep blending it out. But if you're finding that it's just blending it's going too far, like you can't stop it from turning that blue black, then you probably need to wash your brush. I'm going to take the remnants that are on my brush and bring it down in through here. So we've got a little shadow in through here. And you could use a dry brush technique too, which would mean you'd use less paint, and maybe you use more of a scrubbing type of technique like I did down here. But I knew I needed to work around that little edge, so that's why I opted for the water method. And then I'm just kind of pulling this down in through here. That looks pretty good. I'm going to wash my brush to get to this light stuff in through here because I don't want to have the black on my brush. So washing my brush, and then I'm going to pick up my cobalt blue to start and just kind of re-wet this area with my cobalt blue, making sure that I've got it going out as far as I want, because I know that I usually leave a little bit of my outline, and which I did, so I'm gonna make sure that I take care of that now. And then once I've got it kind of re-wet, I'm gonna start adding those highlight colors, which are gonna be my blue, white, and that teal color. And you can put lots of texture in this if you want, or you could do minimal texture. So wherever your comfort zone is, if you want to make this nice and smooth, that's totally fine. But if you want to add the little bits of texture, I just added a tiny bit of water to get my paint to sink into those little crevices along the edge. There we go, that looks pretty good. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of blue with a teeny tiny bit of white. So just be cautious on the amount of white that you put on here, because it could really easily go very light, very quick, and I'm just kind of tapping this. So that way it gives that textural effect. If you wanted it smooth, you're going to just rub it. If you want it with a texture type of effect, just tap it with the tip of your brush, and that's going to give you a little bit of texture to it. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that teal type of color that we created for the head. That wasn't enough, so I'm going to do that again, but let me just let this run out on my brush so I can get it to just kind of meld in with the rest of these areas. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'm going to just wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up, I want a little bit lighter, so I'm picking up a little bit more white plus that custom little teal color that we created, and I'm going to put that right in this area in through here. So again, I don't need to do much, just, you know, enough to give myself a little bit of contour in this area. And then once I've got that done, again, I would always, as I do, let it dry and see if there's any additional highlights that I want to do. But I want to move on to the to that shoulder area. I just picked up a little bit more of my cobalt blue just to blend this out a little bit. That looks pretty good to me. And if you're feeling like your neck is too narrow, you probably just need to widen that area of that highlighted area. So if I felt my neck was too narrow, you can just widen the highlight area, and that'll make it look and appear a little bit wider. So that looks good. So now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to go into this guy in through here. So think of that brown as your shadowy colors in between these feathers. I'm going to pre-mix myself a light brown color, so white plus brown is going to give me this light brown color. So I'm putting it next to what we called tan earlier so you could see the difference between the two of them. So this is in essence another version of a tan, but I'm going to call it light brown because I used brown and added white to it. And once I've got that, I can really have fun with creating these curved type of marks. I'm going to leave this bottom dark. I'm going to darken that in a second, but I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to give myself like these little kind of curved marks going like this and leaving little spaces in between them for the for those shadowy marks. So I'm going to just do this, and I'll come back and enhance some of these shadow marks in a minute, but right now just want to get myself a little bit of texture going on in through here. I'm now going to pick up a little bit more brown on my brush so I can transition into up top. You could, if you felt you wanted to use a different kind of brush stroke too, instead of kind of swiping it side like a curved side way, you can kind of just like push your brush and make these little marks as you're going up. I'm now using more brown on my dirty brush, and in a second I'm going to start to pick up some yellow as I transition up into here. So again, just kind of popping my brush with these little kind of curved marks. I'm going to start picking up yellow on my dirty brush. So this is going to give me a little yellowish type of area, and just a couple of rows. It doesn't have to be much. You can even intermingle it with some of those other marks that you made. Something like that will totally work. Now, without washing my brush, I'm going to pick up green. So I have all of these different tones and colors happening on this little cool area of my bird, and just kind of tapping little marks up and through there. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to wash my brush so I can hit this dark spot down in through here, and then if I want to enhance any of those little shadows, I can. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of, I wash my brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and black and get this area underneath here to really be nice and dark like this. And again, this is, think of this as the shadowy area underneath your bird, like this, just kind of lightly tapping it. And then I can take with that brown and black, and if I wanted to enhance any of these, I can just kind of take it and kind of underline, if you will, pop a little shadow underneath them onto the one that sits underneath them. So again, this is just a real quick way to get these to appear as if they are on top of one another. So at first I did the just the section of where I wanted it to be, and now I can kind of add a little bit of a shadow underneath it onto the one that it is sitting above. And again, this is a really expedited way to do something like this. You could certainly take a lot more time and just do each individual one and really give them every little exact mark the way that you want, but I'm just kind of having fun here and using my my black and my brown to just kind of add these extra little shadows in between. My paint is still wet, so this is one of those benefits when you're doing an impressionistic type of rendition, if you will, is these colors start to just kind of blend a little bit together, and you use that wet paint as your advantage, you know, to doing this. I do want to kind of make sure it goes a little bit into where the long feathers are going to be, so just make sure that that transitions nice over into there. And then you just fiddle with it, maybe a little bit of green, yellow, and touch of white, pop a little, maybe highlight on some of these top ones. And then I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done and you're satisfied with how it looks, you can certainly fiddle with it as much as you want to get any of those to pop out more or to recede more, whatever you want to do. And then you can wash and dry this brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is I'm going to call it the first step to the tail feathers. Even though we already have a base coat on there, I'm going to call this the official first step to the tail feather. I'm using my number 8 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are yellow, white, and probably burnt sienna and brown. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to put my ends of my feathers, which is where you find the eye on the feather, the peacock feather. I'm going to put those in place, and then I'm going to start my intermingling of all the flowing parts of the feathers that we'll have in between. Because I want these to have the tips of the feathers, I want to have a really light base to them, so we can build the vibrant eye on it, and we can also have some great contrast with the colors around it. So I'm going to make myself, or I already have made myself, a light yellow color that I'm going to be using as the base. So this is it in through here. How I got to this was yellow and white. So just yellow and white, mix it together until it's kind of like a pastel type of yellow. You can certainly have it brighter or darker, whatever. Actually, I'm going to put a tiny bit more yellow in it. Whatever shade is pleasing to you. Think of this as kind of the just the base that's going to allow us to get some nice vibrancy in these. So I do want my tail to have a lot of motion. So I'm going to have probably my biggest ones in through here. They'll be a little bit smaller up in through here. And then as they fade away out of, view, I'll have them big, but they'll get smaller and smaller probably at the edges as they're going off the canvas. So I'm going to start up at the top. I'm just going to work my way down. I'm going to start up in through here and give myself kind of I want one to kind of overlap these two sections just so I have a place to disguise this line in through here. So these shapes are kind of in a circular type of shape, but they have the tips of them almost look, I'm going to use this word a lot, feathery. So they're going to be just like free flowing at the end of it. So that'll be one in through there, and we'll put the eye in the middle of it, and we'll put little stems and stuff, not stems, but other parts of the feather going in conjunction with it in a little while. So it's going to flow kind of down here. Maybe I have another one in this direction. So I'm just going to kind of put them in a direction that I feel works for my composition. But if you feel that you want to put yours in a different way, you can certainly do that. I'm going to put one kind of coming over here. I'm doing also I want some good color balance, so I'm going to try not to be super organized with these. I definitely want them to have a little bit of chaotic nature to them, but I don't want them to be super organized. So I am definitely going to have mine in different places. You can have some overlap, but for me, I'm just kind of placing them wherever I want to at the moment, but I am kind of putting them in a direction that is going to make sense. So those will probably be my two biggest ones. Maybe I'll put the little hint of one in through here. I'm going to put maybe one kind of going off my canvas over here. So have fun with where you place them at this point. But again, I've got my bigger ones in through here. And then as I and they kind of are coming like this, as I go over here, instead of the point being there, maybe it's to the side. So maybe I do it in this fashion and kind of give myself those little wispy edges. Something like that, making that light, the center pretty light, because again, I know that I'm going to be putting the eye in the center later. So then maybe I'll have another one in through here, trying again not to be super consistent, but you can be as consistent as as works for your brain. And then down here, I think this is where, now that I'm in this area, I'm going to start using burnt sienna with my light yellow, so I can have a little bit different tone in these ones that are kind of going a little bit farther away from the viewer. Maybe there's a couple tucked under in through here. So again, you can see I'm really just using a soft kind of impressionistic type of brush stroke. I'm gonna have one kind of coming down in through there, and then as I kind of creep over this direction, I can certainly make them bigger or smaller, whatever works for you. But again, I just that was too much burnt sienna. I'll put a little bit more of that light color on there. But again, I'm using these lighter color to help when I go to put the bright blue on. This is definitely going to allow me to have a nice lighter exterior to the feathers, but also allow for that bright part in the center to pop as well. So maybe we'll put one over in through here. That looks pretty good. Maybe just another one down here. It's tough to stop. This is, again, one of those things as you're doing. It's like, well, maybe I want another one here or another one there. So this, again, just is giving me kind of my roadmap of where I want these eyes to go. You could even, again, have one, you know, underneath. So maybe there's going to be one underneath that one. So once I've got that in place, now I just want to add another layer to all this flowing stuff that's in between. So I'm actually going to wash my brush, and I'm going to start with dark paint, which will be my brown and my burnt sienna, and then I'll work my way towards my lighter stuff, which is going to be my yellow and my white. So I'm going to just start with my brown and maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. And what I'm going to do here is you can go at the top of the feather in through there, and you can just make sure that it's nice and dark right at that mark. And what that's going to do is that's going to add, just make sure that there's some good contrast right underneath that that particular feather. And then I'm just really going to make sure that I have another layer to this. If there's any areas that I'm feeling are being missed, so like in through here I see it's kind of streaky, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the brown and the burnt sienna. I'm using a very loose brush stroke just to allow for the free flowing feel that I feel like you see on a peacock's tail. Again, you can have more eyes to it if you want, more of the colored parts, but I'm thinking that this is gonna work out for me. That one I just did right on top. But again, if you want those little ends to pop out a little bit more, you can certainly add more to that. I am gonna also use my light yellow in this step to add this, like the swishy kind of feel to it. But right now, just sticking with my brown and my burnt sienna to get this initial kind of pass in through here, making sure this kind of all connects here. I'm gonna start to use a little bit of my light yellow now, just to, again, add to this, the swirliness, if you will, so that the light yellow can kind of almost connect to the top of, or what would be the bottom of the eye, and just adding that kind of trajectory for the stem of that feather. So this is the light yellow on my dirty brush, intermingled with the wet paint that's still on my canvas. So again, be mindful, this is for me just a really fun, interactive kind of feel it as you do it kind of painting. You can certainly make yours more tight and more streamlined as to with the with individual feathers, making them really look hyper realistic. But again, I'm just going for a nice fun rendition here. I will put more detail on these as I finesse the final stages of this, but right now just enjoying the process. I'm again just with my light yellow right now, adding these swirls, and maybe I can even bring some over out into here. This is my first step, and I'm just enjoying the process. Again, kind of coming up towards the top of these guys. Now I think I'm going to pick up a little bit of my light yellow and a touch of white. So this will just give me a little bit lighter version up in through here. And it also, this will help to ensure that I'm pretty close to covering up that line that I had in that I had created with my pencil mark earlier, and make this flow as much as you want it to. If you want this to really, you know, encapsulate just the freeness and the long flowing aspects of the tail, just enjoy it. Make it long, make it flowing, add some additional light areas up and through here. And then once you've got this in this initial stage that's bringing pleasure to your eye, no, we are going to be doing another couple of steps on this to bring it into its final resting place, but I'm thinking that that's exciting enough to me, so I'm going to call it on this step, and we'll use this same brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is the second step to the tail feathers. I'm going to be using my number 8 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are blue, white, and maybe some of that teal color. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting the eyes in place, and I might finesse them a little bit more in a future step, but I definitely want to put them in place, get their blue on, and then maybe add a little bit of a highlight and a little decorative element around it. So I'm going to first just use, the colors in this step. Oh, I already told you. Blue, blue, white, and my teal color. So I'm going to just start with blue and create a circular type of object that's not right at the either end. So somewhere maybe if you were to see this feather standing up, probably in the lower portion of it, but since it's upside down, it's going to be in the upper portion. I've seen these very circular or oval-esque. You can really kind of do whatever comes naturally to you, but I'm going to just kind of put my shape on there. And I'm not using very heavy paint to put this on right now, because I am going to come back and make a couple of, put a couple of different marks on it before I'm done this step. So I'm just kind of using a little bit thinner paint, not a heavy coat, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And if you feel that, you know, you want one to be underneath something, this one's underneath that one. I'll show you how to do just like a partial one. And we're also going to be doing some of these feather pieces in a future step are going to be overlapping some of these. So just know that if it's not exactly as you had planned, or you're not getting the exact shape that you had wanted, it's all right, because we can certainly disguise it with other pieces of the feathers. And again, this is just intended to be a fun kind of impressionistic thing. So as I'm coming down towards these darker ones, my blue is transparent, so what's going to happen is it's going to look darker on these darker ones, which is great because this is giving me dimension on this tail. So this one in through here, if I wanted to just do like a partial one, I could just put it right behind that one and then just kind of bring this out like this. This one I think I can see the whole thing. So again, I'm just kind of opting for a kind of a circular shape, but it looks a little oval or maybe a little flat on the top side of it. Again, just enjoy the process. That's the best thing I can explain to you or tell you is I paint for pleasure, and as I'm doing these images for you guys, I'm having fun. So if you're going through your process and you come to a place where you're like, well, I really want to make it tighter, or it's frustrating you, then just step back for a minute and regroup, look at it from a distance, figure out if you want to do it looser or tighter. Sometimes just knowing that from the get-go can help you relax a little bit more during the process, because you've kind of already determined what style of painting that you want to do. When I'm doing my renditions of photos, sometimes I do them a little bit tighter. When I'm doing something like this where I know I'm just going for a really loose rendition, knowing that process or how you want the outcome to be, knowing that from the get-go just helps you relax and say, okay, I know I want more detail in this one, so it's going to take me a little bit longer, and that's what it's all about. so once I've got this on, I'm gonna now pick up a little bit of that teal, but it seems I've run out, so I'm gonna make myself a little bit more teal. So just the blue, yellow, and white, and get myself this nice, pretty, light-ish teal. And I'm not worried if this wasn't exactly the same as the other one I had. It'll all work out in the end. And I'm gonna put this towards the what is now the top side, but would be the bottom side if you were looking at it from the angle. I'm just going to put a lighter mark in through here. So this is just a lighter version, and it now color coordinates with what I have on the top of the bird. So just putting this little lighter area in through here like that, and again towards the bottom side of that circular object. Like this will work. This one you might not even see much of it, but it might be scooting behind that one. And again, I'm just kind of tapping my brush so I don't put too much on there. I didn't even wash my brush or reload it at all during that step. And now you can do anything else that you want. So I'm gonna wash and dry my brush. And I think I actually want to put, do I want to do that now? I think I want to put a tiny bit of, and I need another layer of blue. So I'm going to go blue and a tiny bit of black. I didn't say I was using black. And I'm going to just darken up just a little bit at this bottom side. So this is blue plus a little bit of black, just to, again, give myself just a tiny bit more dimension on these, but nothing much. It's really, my purpose really is to give it a second layer down at that little bottom part. But if you feel that you want it any darker, I just wanted a little bit more contrast down at the bottom part of that eye. So again, have fun with making it as high contrast or as low contrast as you want. And then I'm gonna use this, I just picked up a little bit more blue just to make sure that this top part was as bright as I want. And then I'm gonna be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, this is just another layer of the cobalt blue up here just to make that fully rendered. I'm going to use this same brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is the third step to the tail feathers. I think we're only gonna have one more after this, but I'm gonna be using my number 8 round brush. The colors that I'm gonna use in this step are blue, green, light yellow, white, and maybe a little bit of brown. So what I'm doing in this step, oh, and yellow too. What I'm doing in this step is I want to bring this almost to its final resting place. My final details are going to be just little singular independent little pieces that'll, and maybe another little decorative item on the eyes. But this step, I really want to make sure that I have the rest of my flowy stuff happening. Maybe I start, I want to have some lighter feathers in here with maybe some tan or white or something on them. I want to carry some of this blue and green into the flow of this. So this is the step where I'm going to bring it almost to the end, but keeping in mind that I'll have a final step with details. I think I said all my colors that I'm going to use, but if I didn't, I need to repeat because I can't remember if I said it or not. I'm going to be using yellow, white, probably my light yellow, green, blue, and maybe some brown. I think that's it. So what I'm going to first do, I'm going to work from dark to light. Any areas that I want to add some darker tones, I'm going to do that now. So I know that I definitely want to have some green and blue in through here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of green first. And I really I want to just add carry some of this color down into these, into the composition for a couple of different reasons. One, I just think it will make my peacock prettier, but two, it helps to balance and harmonize your color on the composition. So as you're doing something like this, where you did perhaps carry a lot of different colors through it. And that was the only place I put that green. So in order to make it not necessarily just pleasing to the eye, but also make sense throughout the painting and to harmonize with the painting, I want to put it elsewhere too. So I'm finding these little pockets where I could pop a little bit. Maybe this will be part of the feathers that are, you know, kind of trailing down here. Maybe I put a little bit in through here. I might even carry this into the eye of my feathers in order to just allow for it to have its own voice and kind of be dispersed in a nice, actually I'm feeling it. I'm just taking it and popping just a little tiny bit at the top of those eyes, just a little tiny bit, because I want to. And I think it might look pretty cool as an added color on these. So I'm just kind of adding a little tiny green on there, and just a little hint of it is gonna satisfy me. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my blue. So I can wash my brush or not. I'm just wiped it on my paper towel and picked up a little bit of my blue. So now I can use this blue just like I just did to the green and carry it elsewhere. You can use it with that teal too if you want to. I just picked up a tiny bit of the teal just to kind of carry this in through here, and it helps with that flow. The prettiness of my peacock is not, you know, just because it looks like a peacock, but they just have these beautiful colors. And I think that's where our design and interest eye goes to with these beautiful birds, is the colorful display that they create. So not only am I enjoying the process and creating this, but I'm also allowing for these colors to just be really part of the composition. So I feel like that's enough blue scattered about because it's all in the eyes as well. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and now I'm going to start using my yellow. So I didn't use straight yellow any other place other than up in my leaves. So I do want to incorporate a little bit of this straight yellow some places. So I can definitely use it in the feather part, the head of the feather. So I'm going to use it a little bit in through there, just kind of dabbing it down at the bottom of that eye. So something like this is, again, just kind of incorporating a little bit of that color. And again, when I get to these darker ones, it's going to look different because it is on a darker surface. So that's, again, the beauty of layering, which I love to do, is allowing for the reaction of the colors underneath it to have a say and to create something that has a tremendous amount of detail. So that's why I love layering. So that looks pretty good there, and I'm going to add, I don't want to just add it there, so I'm going to just kind of add a couple of little streaks here and there to just make sure, again, it all harmonizes and talks to each other. Now I'm picking up some of my light yellow. So my light yellow is going to kind of be my my connector, if you will, my connector color. You can often do that with a light color or something that you want to kind of have dispersed everywhere. I feel like I could even use a little bit of this light yellow up in these guys up at the top of here. So in order to get everything to connect and to look like it belongs, you can utilize again, those colors elsewhere. So this is just my light yellow, making sure that it kind of is incorporated. This is going to be the color that kind of, again, allows for these pieces to connect. I'm going to have some lighter, more like white area in through here, but right now just kind of adding this onto here. Again, just kind of another layer. I think actually I could, no, I'm going to use my yellow plus a little bit of my burnt sienna, which wasn't part of the color combination, as I come down into these dark guys here. So this is light yellow and my burnt sienna. So as I'm coming down into these darker ones, this will help, again, just keep them a little bit different looking than the ones up top. You could, of course, use you know, a different color combination if you want to, but I'm thinking that this is looking pretty good. And you can also start to pull out these tips of the feathers, because this is going to allow these, I'll show you when I get down to this one, because you'll be able to see it a little bit better. So if I'm doing a second layer in through here, I can pull this tip out like that, and it's gonna show that that little edge is a little bit fluffier looking. I'm sure that's not the right terminology, but a different color on top of what you did on the first round will help it have more contrast in these little feathers. I just picked up a touch of yellow with my light yellow because it wasn't showing enough, so I just opted to add a little bit more of the deep yellow on top of that one, so that works. So again, I'm really working right now to get my second layer to allow for the head of the feather to take on its own vibrancy and connect and have not just a flat color, but maybe a little bit of dimension to it. So right now it seems like I'm going back and forth between my burnt sienna, light yellow, and deep yellow to get this transition to kind of occur on these guys at the end here. Over here again, light yellow and yellow maybe on this guy. Yeah, this is looking pretty. Sometimes you get into these paintings and it's like, you know, you expect one thing as you're doing it, and you're going through and it's like, oh, this is better than I thought it would be, because I'm just enjoying it. And that's, to me, it almost doesn't even matter what it looks like sometimes at the end, as long as I really enjoyed the process, and I'm definitely digging the process on this one. So again, burnt sienna, yellow, these are my colors that I'm transitioning from right now. Getting this, I've got all of that area taken care of. I feel like I need a little bit more lightness up in that center area, but this is looking pretty good. I'm gonna, I feel like I need to also wash my brush right now. I feel it's a little overloaded, so I'm gonna wash and dry my brush, and I'm gonna go in for some white right now. So a little bit of white. I'm gonna start the process of some real light ones in through here, and again, just kind of the accents of them. So I find that kind of giving that stem, and then maybe a couple little pieces just kind of coming out the sides, that's going to help to get these little ones to pop out a little bit more, maybe just a little bit in through here. So again, I'm just kind of allowing myself to give a little bit lighter accents to some of these ones up in this kind of center top area in through here. That's working out pretty well. So now I'm thinking that that's as far as I feel I want to take it on this step. I do have my final detail step to go. I might push it a little bit further like under, if your tips of your feathers aren't popping as much as you want them to, I just wipe my brush off. You can pick up a little bit of like brown or burnt sienna and just kind of, like this one wasn't popping enough for me, so I just kind of darkened those little feathery areas underneath that edge, and that'll get it to pop just a little bit more. So just a little, so you can add these little contrasting dark marks in between if you want those you know, anything to pop anymore. All right, I think that does it for me on that step. I'm going to be using my small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this medium brush away, take out your small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is the fourth step to the feathers, which is going to be the final step. We're finishing them on this step. I'm going to be using my number 3 round brush. The colors that I'm going to use are white, light yellow, yellow, red, burnt sienna, and probably some brown. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I am doing on this step is I just want to finish all of my little details. I want to do a little bit more detail on the eye, of the feathers, and then I want to make sure I have all of my tiny little pieces of my flowing feathers finished. So I'm going to start with the eyes because I know that I want to do a little bit of detail in them. So I'm going to start with a touch of brown on my brush. Did I say I was spraying in brown? I don't know. Yes, I said I was using brown. So a little bit of brown and water on my brush. I kind of want to separate that little light area that I had. I think on most of them I did it with a little bit of green. So I'm just kind of adding a little detailed dark mark between like that. I used some of that green on the edges. So I feel like I wanted that to pop a little bit more. So I'm just taking a little bit of brown. You could even, if you don't want just a line, you could also kind of rub it into the feather. That'll give you a little bit more dimensional element around that eye portion. So just a little bit of brown and just kind of rub it out. Again, I'm doing it very loose, very fun, just giving myself a little bit more dimension in that eye part with brown, and it also helped to separate those little fluffy feathers at the ends. So I'm putting this darker tone right where it meets that the lighter color that I put on there. And again, you could do this with different colors. You could do it with even with black if you wanted to have a lot of drama, or you could use a little burnt sienna in it too. Like down in these bottom ones, I could definitely get away with some black, but I don't think I'm gonna go that route, just so I keep my colors pretty similar from one to the next, but definitely enjoying this process. I'm just having fun. And that looks pretty good. So in the eyes, I'm wondering if I want to do anything else. I think I want to wash and dry my brush. I think I'm going to pick up a little bit. I didn't say I was using green. I'm going green and white. So green and white, and just enhancing that little highlighted part. So this is green and white on my brush. And you don't have to swipe it in exactly the same exact spot that you did the first time. I just wanted an extra little bit of highlight in between to make sure that the viewer could see what I did. There's some, I go with the philosophy, there's no point in doing it if nobody can see it. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to start finishing my little top parts of them. So all I really need to do is pick a slightly off color than what I've already done. So if I did light yellow for this one, I could pick white as my slightly different color, and I could take it and just add a little extra texture into that feather. You can always use a little bit of water on your brush as well. That's going to help pull out these little extra fancy things along the side. So if this is my stem, if I feel I can see the stem, I can use a little bit of white to enhance the edges of that. So I'm going to use white on my lighter ones, and then I'll probably go into my light yellow and my burnt sienna as I get into the darker ones. I'm not quite sure if I said I was going to use red or not, but I'm also going to use red in this step. Step 2. So I've added red and green to the list of colors. So this little bit of white I'm going to use up for this guy in through here, and again just a little bit to pull these edges out and to give me that dimensional element. And again, if you feel that you want to get it to blend in with anything that is neighboring to it, you can certainly do that. Again, just kind of finding where I want that stem, and then just kind of pulling out these beautiful wispy little pieces. I'm picking up a little bit of light yellow too. I feel like the white might be a little overpowering on these, and these little wispy pieces coming off of that stem can just be part of your flow, and again, make it whatever you want. So again, right now I'm light yellow and white for these guys over here, and just adding that additional layer in order to give them more of the iconic kind of little head that I see. You could even do a darker tone. So like in through here, if I want to use my light yellow, maybe my opposing color is burnt sienna. So anything that's a little contrasting is going to give you that appearance. But I think the part that you want to be careful of is that you don't turn it into exactly what the same color that's behind it. So you want to at least be able to see that that contrast on top of whatever you have behind it. So any color combination that works for you, and those darker colors that we laid down underneath are going to help this process as well. So I just picked up a little bit of white with my light yellow, and again I'm just allowing for myself to be very free and adding this additional kind of skinnier brush stroke on top of what I've already done, which is giving me the additional textural information that I am looking for. And of course, if you want to make yours, you know, bolder or less bold, that's totally up to you. I can of course use this to bring out these fun pieces coming off of the side of the oh, I'm gonna be corrected for this, the stem. It's got to be the stem. That's all I'm thinking. I'm sure there's a more technical name for it. The part that meets the bird. I don't know what it's called. But you can really just have fun with doing those counteracting colors. Again, I'm using the motion. I'm going to go light yellow and yellow on my brush right now to get these guys in through here. Just trying to also go in a gradient type of a way. So I don't want to just go too dark on the next one. So I just want to kind of gradually get darker as I'm going into the ones that are below. So that's just the thought process that's in my head. And then even in between, you can just kind of put some little flowing ones. I am in a second going to start incorporating a little bit of the red, but I want to get these guys all settled in before I tackle going into another color. So I am going to be incorporating red in this because I have red up above in my leaves. And I really want to, I'm going into some burnt sienna right now. I really want to make sure that there's some cohesion and harmony throughout my painting. I love it when that happens. I think it's important for many different reasons. As I'm doing my paintings, you know, again, my painterly eye is the most important thing to satisfy, but as I'm going through my paintings, there are certain elements that I know that I like to make sure I hit, and certain design elements I like to hit, and definitely balance is one of them. So as I'm doing these paintings, and I'm seeing, okay, well, I did use a color somewhere else that I have yet to use in any other manner. So if that's the case, I tend to try and figure out a way to incorporate it somewhere else. So this is an easy painting to incorporate colors because I'm doing peacock feathers and they can have lots and lots of colors on them. So as you're, again, when you find find your way into designing your own paintings, those are the things that you, as the designer, I'm going into light yellow and burnt sienna. You, as the designer, make those type of decisions along the way, and you do it in order to, one, you know, have it visually balanced, but also to feed your own personal desires as you're looking at artwork, and where does your happiness lie. But I'm thinking that this is pretty good. I'm going to start incorporating my red in a second here. Let me just pop a little bit more on this guy and through here. So I've got the iconic kind of shape to these guys. I've got some good movement on them. Now I want to definitely make sure that I have a little bit of that red. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of red. I'm going to just kind of put it around the edges. So it's almost as if these feathers kind of just went up, maybe they morphed into these leaves, you know, just, you can imagine it to be whatever fun way that you want, but I'm definitely going to be using it more just towards the bottom, and the edges, just a little hint of it, nothing invasive, nothing in your face, just something that says, oh, that's, you know, it ties it together, in a pleasing way without it being too much. So I think that's all I'm going to do for my red. It can help to, you know, fill in some little spots that you might have missed. And then I just need to, I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I just want to finesse a couple of these little straggly, the little fluffy edges. So I think I'm going to just pick up some white and yellow. So white and yellow are on my brush right now. And just making sure that I have as much flow as I want throughout this painting. So this is where I can just use these little pops of highlights. So again, yellow, my deep yellow and white is just allowing me to pull these vibrant little pops. Again, maybe it's something that ties your colors together. Maybe it's something that just adds a little bit more flow to the painting. If you want there to be a little bit more movement to it, just doing this little final kind of pass will help you clean up any of these little perhaps unfinished brush strokes. You can use it to tie things together. You can use it to enhance whatever works for you. I feel like I just want a couple little pops of brightness up and through here. Get it, you know, use it to enhance the iconic look of the feathers. I think I'm almost in my final resting place here. It's bringing me joy. That's all that matters. And then of course, again, I'm just using yellow and white to just pop on my little final details in through here. And then it's just time to fiddle. So if you feel that you have anything that you want to add more darkness to or lightness to or contrast to, that's the fiddling stage. So if you know, step back from it, look at it from a distance, see if there's any additional things that you feel might enhance it, and those are the little areas that you just sit and fiddle and tweak and make brighter or make darker. And once you've got that done, I'm digging this. Once you've got that done, we are going to be using this same little brush for the next step, but now I'm into fiddling, so we're just gonna have to show restraint here and tell you that I'm done, and we'll be going on to the next step with this same small brush so you can get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I'm going to be using my small detailed brush, my number 3 round. I am going to sign this in the bottom left-hand corner with light yellow. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date. You could make up a special symbol if you want to. Some people opt to sign their paintings on the back so they, you know, don't distract from the front of the painting, but that's totally up to you. I like to usually use a complementary color or a color that's within the painting, but again, those kind of decisions are totally up to you because you are the artist and you get to sign it whatever way you would like. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a beautiful autumn bird, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.